Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team live stream podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. We thank you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon, wherever you are. Obviously, college football officially ended last week, regular season-wise, and then the day after, of course, was the controversial CFB playoffs. Notre Dame not making it. Notre Dame deciding to opt out of the bowl season. Is the bowl season in perils, or is the college football system okay? And then where I am in Michigan, the bombshell happened. Of course, the Sharon Moore getting fired with cause because of inappropriate relationship with an executive assistant and so forth. It seems like though there is not a dull moment in college football, but of course the biggest news happened last week when LSU landed former Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin in a stunning way. Hopefully the ink is dry because we know Lane Kiffin seems to be a man who likes to be in the center of the attention for many good or wrong reasons. And I am very honored today to welcome today's guest. He is the founder and editor of LSUodyssey.com. It is the man himself, Lonn Phillips Sullivan, joining me on this Saturday afternoon on the Double A Team live stream. Lonn, thank you very much, and happy holidays to you. First of all, I know we were scheduled last week at this time, but we had to reschedule, and for a good reason, because you welcome in, I believe, is a second child, correct?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Second child.
Congratulations.
This last few days. Actually, the last time we had this scheduled, she was originally supposed to be due like the 15th or something. Thank you so much, Mom. Love you. Um, my mom dropping off my boy.
Ah.
He just met Santa. Met a second. Yeah, met our second daughter, and it was incredible a few days ago. And it was actually originally scheduled for um, our original show for this. So on December 8th, we have you know we had that scheduled, and so instead we had a baby that day. But
What a
here we are
blessing.
now, Stephen, and yeah, it was great, and everything. You know how hospitals are, but
Yeah.
we're getting there, and thank God everybody's here and everybody's healthy so far.
Yeah, great, great. Have you been able to get some sleep?
What sleep, Stephen? What's sleep? Like what's sleep, brother?
Right, right.
Yeah, actually last night we did for the first time in about 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
and because of that, we like slept in through like a bunch of phone calls and all this stuff, like till like we slept in till like 8:50. Like it was you know it was nothing. But yeah, we got some sleep last night. It was quite refreshing and relaxing. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this. Thank you for having me on.
No, no, no. This is a very timely topic, given where current state of football is. As I did in the opening talk, Sharon Moore, got himself fired uh, for cause and all of that. So there are so many great things to talk about. Whether it's good or bad, of course. But let's start with your obviously your specialty, LSU Tiger stock. But before we get into the meat of things, first of all, how did you start at the LSUodyssey.com, and what is your kind of a background, before and after kind of like starting this website?
Steven, yeah, it's been crazy for where you are in Michigan with Sharon Moore. We can totally get into that at some point. I'd love to talk about that. We
Absolutely,
talked
absolutely,
talked
yeah.
about that on our last show because it is one of the most insane stories in college football history, and that's what we do. But I started this in 2018 at a time when I was just out of high school. I started managing a liquor store as soon as I got 21. I was like, worked my way up, from a cashier to the manager at the liquor store, and I just noticed, stocking shelves and doing all this stuff. I'm like, I'm missing a lot of these games,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not
yeah.
only that, I'm missing LSU games, but then I personally remember this from the LSU BYU game. I think it was in 2017. And I'm like, not only am I missing this game where we're kicking the shit out of BYU, which is a team here in my home state of Utah. So it was kind of personal for me, like let's destroy BYU. And so I'm like having to get updates on my phone, watch it here and there, go home and watch it after work, and I'm like, man, I'm missing this stuff. And not only that, Chelsea, my lady reminds me, and she's like, you haven't really been writing as much as you usually do. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. And so I switched jobs.
Hmm.
I found a job that gave me a lot more free time, a lot more time to think during the day, and
Yeah.
so I was able to provide for the family while writing. And usually I'd be writing and then listening to sports radio, or watching some kind of sports thing. The World Cup happened that summer in 2018,
Yeah, yeah,
and I was writing a ton of that stuff on this private blog of mine. And I started kind of moving from in there to like, well, I like LSU. I love LSU.
yeah.
So maybe I would love writing about LSU. So I start writing LSU stuff that summer of 2018. It builds from a blog spot site into something where now Barstool host T. Bob Abear was the first guy who of notable
Mm.
credibility who really started kind of supporting our stuff and retweeting it and giving it some love. And it kind of proved to me like, okay, maybe we could do something with this. Started the site. It was right in the throes of 2019. You know, I was writing all throughout 2018 into 2019, but the site began during 2019, and it's been going ever since. And we're independent. We don't really have. I'm the boss. I'm the only employee of LSU Odyssey. We definitely would love to expand to cover all LSU sports at one
Hmm.
point.
Yeah.
I definitely love to have like an LSU baseball Odyssey type of thing, LSU women's basketball Odyssey type of thing. But
Oh, yeah,
um,
yeah,
for now, as one guy, I'm just going to be covering the football, but would love to expand. But
yeah.
it's been a really fun ride, and it's absolutely awesome to see it build and see what it's become.
Awesome. So you're fairly young, based on your conversation, because you said you graduated about high school in about what, a decade ago or so, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God, man! Yeah, it was it. I am in my 30s, but very
Oh,
early in my 30s. Very early in my 30s. It's just started to wake me up that like, oh my God, you're now actually 30. So I mean, a little over a decade ago. But
I
now
got
but now after doing this for I think this is the eighth year that we've done. No,
wow.
no, seventh year we've done LSU Odyssey. I think it's coming up on the eighth year in like March or something. But this is the seventh year that we've done this,
Hmm.
covering every season.
Wow.
It's crazy how the time has gone by and what we've all covered during that time, and how the world has changed during
Hmm.
that time as well. I mean, I remember probably like you do, doing this a lot during the pandemic, doing a lot of shows during the pandemic.
Yeah.
That was actually a time of big growth for the site because people simply needed the entertainment. I
Absolutely.
know I knew they needed it, and I needed the release to the something to focus on, some type of purpose to create for myself during that time. And so it was of an LSU fan who had the platform, as small as it was, like helping other LSU fans get through this time where like all the other sports media was shut down. And
Hmm.
so I think we gained probably the establishment of our audience, some of our regulars, our diehard people, through that time, really more than any time, and it's kind of continued since then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Me and Ken Fang from Awful Announcing, we kind of started our show uh, about a year into pandemic, and it's kind of hard to believe it's almost 6 years since it all started. And that's when at the time, if you've seen our show, or if us, Lon, we're both two Asian Americans, and at that time, the pandemic, of course, China started, and then the China virus or Kung Fu virus, the term really started to stick around, and then our community kind of, took a lot of blunt, death threats, assault, and even, a few Asian Americans being killed because of it, and so forth. So we kind of,
That's
wanted to send out a positive, I don't want to say reinforcements, but we had a goal in mind, because there's not enough Asian Americans in the sports media and entertainment scenes. Not just writers, of course, but in the acting, and then also on the scenes as well. So we're very, very blessed that we've been doing this for 5, 6 years, and we've had a few guests, a few big names here and there, and we've been fortunate to have people like you, with the same ambition and goals, from starting small to making it big, and be able to talk sports for a living. You are able to do it, of course, but I have a full-time job, and Ken has a full-time job, and then we do this as a side job, as a way of releasing tensions, or just have fun, talking,
yes.
talk life, and some shit like that, as a way of just engage in some fun. And then I'm very, very appreciative of people like you, to be able to participate on our show. So very, very, and foster relationships along the way as well. So
Well,
I
hey,
thank you for having people like you to come onto our show.
well, Stephen, it's an honor, because actually, I really you brought something up about being part of the Asian community, and I really wanted to let you know about. Have you ever heard of Joe Nagata from LSU? There's a player named Joe
I don't know
Nagata.
about. I've never heard of that name. To be honest, I'm very, very sorry for that.
It's okay. Don't apologize for that, because there's actually a ton of LSU fans who don't know who he is. And I wrote this article where I found out about this guy Joe Nagata,
Uh-huh.
who is probably the biggest Asian American LSU Tiger of all time. And this guy was a
Oh.
World War II hero, as a part of the one of the greatest ever, most highly decorated combat units in world history.
Okay.
A very well studied battalion full of Nisei Japanese
Okay.
who
Yeah. 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 And I
and
happened
just,
to find Google search your website, and
there
boom,
we
there.
go. There
No,
it is.
absolutely.
And that he has quite the story, from winning an Orange Bowl with LSU
Uh huh.
to enlisting in the army for the country that country, and put his family in internment camps for a while.
Uh
And
huh.
so it's kind of strange that he would enlist, but it's that love of America that he had, of the American dream, and kind of the possibilities of it all. And I just really wanted to pass that on, because I feel like that is a great connection from LSU to the Asian community. And that's, you know,
No,
something
thank you.
I think it was a great story. It's a great story of Joe Nagata.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm gonna make sure to take a good look at this over the weekend, to to get a better understanding. My guest today is Lonn Phillips Sullivan, who is a founder and also the editor and writer with the website that you're looking, LSUodyssey.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm also thankful that Lonn has linked his website to some of his viewers as well. All right, so let's get to the meat of things. what the heck really happened this year with the LSU Tigers? There was so much hype and so much, expectations coming in, and it just really, really collapsed. Uh, was it just the player evaluation was overrated? Was it just simply Brian Kelly's fault, or is it just basically, it's hard to pinpoint. Like looking at LSU, they just did not look like they were in sync from start to finish at all. So give me your overall assessment on what the heck happened this year.
Steven, it all begins and ends with everyone knows how important the offensive line is. Everyone knows that like
Yeah.
your offensive line, your running game, your quarterback, your offense, especially your offense capitalizing off of an amazing defense that's giving them a lot of turnovers, a lot of great field position, a lot of advantageous moments to really go for the kill and win games early. And if you go back and you actually watch the film, I know this is the 2025 LSU Tigers with the hideous LSU offense that was one of the worst we've seen ever for LSU. Um, I I really think you actually will be stunned how many times this defense gave this offense that we had this diabolical offense. They gave them so many opportunities to win games this season. But here's the thing: when you have a quarterback, your starting quarterback is carrying two injuries, one in his patellar tendon
Hmm.
and another a torn abdominal right through the center of his chest, all ripped apart,
Hmm.
and he can barely throw the ball over 5 to 10 yards. And then you have an offensive line where tackles are playing guard and guards are playing tackles, which my buddy Daniel from the Go team, offensive line guru, pointed out.
Hmm.
You had guys in the wrong spot on offensive line, and you had guys who were just simply not good enough on the offensive line. You did not have a good enough running game scheme. Your running backs were hesitant. The running game got going somewhat here and there because it had to over the course of the season, but you had a, a list of great receiving talents that you failed to take complete uh, advantage of. Berrien Brown, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton Jr. was completely anonymous this season.
Hmm.
You didn't get him a single touchdown. Aaron Anderson, one of your best players on your entire team, got injured multiple times because of some hospital throws by Garrett Nussmeier, just
Yeah.
throwing Aaron Anderson right into some terrible hits. He had he had at least three different injuries. Aaron Anderson didn't even score a touchdown this season. You wasted so many guys this season that really could have been good for you. Harlem Berry finally got going. Finally got playing time and got going later on in the season. Hayden Durham, who was supposed to be, he was a Maxwell Award watch guy going into the season, not just like a top running back, but Steven, we're talking like he was thought of as one of the best offensive players in the country, or could be.
Yeah.
And he was nowhere to be found, injury issues again, but then he started to kind of get going here and there. He started the season strong and then we went completely anonymous after the first few games, nowhere to be found. And then kind of got going slightly at the tail end. Once again, just another guy you could not maximize on this offense. It all began with the offensive line. You could not score over 25 points against any team that wasn't Southeastern, Stephen.
Yeah.
That's not an exaggeration. LSU did not score over 25 points this last season. Well, I guess it is
Hmm.
still this season against any other team except for Southeastern. You like you can point at the defense. They couldn't stop dual threat quarterbacks in a couple of these games. You can point to whatever you want to, but when you still hold Ole Miss to 24 points, when Trinidad Chambliss throws over 300, rushes for almost 100, and
Right.
he cooks your defense, but you still hold them to only 24 points and you only lose by 5 or 6. That's on the offense that you lost that game because you're wasting countless opportunities to take control of games, to stay in games. The defense did everything they possibly could. Most of the season, they held teams, under 10 points per game, around 11 points per game. Those type of metrics, those type of numbers are unexpected, unthought of, unforeseen in today's modern college football landscape. You're supposed to be allowing some shootouts here or there. This defense was imperious. They did everything possible, Stephen,
Yeah.
for this team to succeed. But Brian Kelly is the head of the snake.
Yeah.
It's not all his fault, but here's the thing. He was the one who had complete control of the program. He was the one who made all the decisions, made all the hires, and importantly, making the hires, because as we've come to find out, and something I reported for the last few years, not only did Brian Kelly not really care to create relationships with people on his staff or on his roster, Brian Kelly was often just not even there. He was just very lazy as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
That was something we got under fire for as a credentialed media member. There was some. You could tell Brian Kelly was never going to do us any favors as far as player interviews or anything like that ever again for reporting stuff like that. And that's what happened. But we reported it still. But you also had the fact that Brian Kelly hid the fact that his quarterback was injured to begin the season. Garrett Nussmeier could barely throw the football against Clemson to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was compromised with those injuries to begin the season, and he was going to play no matter what, hell or high water, according to Kelly. And that to me, if you had gone with Michael Van Buren, as bad as Van Buren looked at points, and as promising as he did, I think in totality, we have a great defense. We really can stop almost anybody here. If we can control the football, if we can run the ball, if we can kind of have a dual threat option, which is Michael Van Buren, your only other option outside of Nussmeier, to me, there's going to be less negative plays. There would have been more points on the board. There would have been more control of the football, time of possession control, which would have helped your defense innumerably. That defense was exhausted. They played almost 80-plus plays a game in a few of those games, especially against Kiffin's Ole Miss. They played for 84 plays that game. And your defense was exhausted and still produced that. Just imagine if they had Michael Van Buren, even as conservative as the offense would have been, even as ugly as it would have looked. 16-13, whatever, like you're still actually going to be winning these games or have a better chance to than going with Nussmeier, in my opinion. And you went with an injured quarterback and you tried to hide that. And for that alone, Brian Kelly should have been fired. For putting Garrett Nussmeier in that type of situation as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just all of it. Brian Kelly, disaster, diabolical, and was never a good fit at LSU. Was never going to be a good fit at LSU. And this season, people were talking about Heisman before the year, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And Nussmeier was probably going to go number one or something like that in certain early 2026 NFL draft mock drafts also.
Exactly. There was a lot of and it wasn't just for one player. It was across the board. Harold Perkins, Whit Weeks, and then Whit Weeks gets injured for 5-6 of the most critical games. LSU had everything that could possibly go wrong for them go wrong outside of the defense really just balled out the whole season. Mm-hmm. Blake Baker. I don't know if they announced who's going to win the Broyles Award yet. I know Mansour Delane, our corner, got cheated out of that by Caleb Downs for the Thorpe Award last night. But I don't know who's won the Broyles Award. But I know Blake Baker's a finalist. Man, it's hard to suggest that he shouldn't win that thing. That defense was unbelievable. But I'm biased. I saw it. I'm an LSU fan. It was the first good. It was the first truly great elite LSU defense, possibly since 2019, 2018, 2017 in that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from a observer from far apart, far away, I did see my share of LSU games because they were also always on TV, whether it's ABC or ESPN. It seems as though the offense really never clicked. And Kelly was always yelling, and he was always seems to be fuming at someone, whether it's a player or an assistant. And I did see his relationship with Nussmeier deteriorating right in front of my own eyes, and it was just a horrible circumstances, which, given Brian Kelly's reputation, not many people don't seem to feel sorry for him one bit as he continues to wait for his, discussions on the buyouts and all of that. So now that's out of the way. LSU hired Lane Kiffin. Certainly, the hiring of and the timing of it really comes with a lot of asterisks and controversy notwithstanding, but it's both mostly because of Lane's past relationship, whether it was with the Oakland Raiders, the USC Trojans, and how both times he kind of flamed out and got fired, and of course I'll throw in he also was with the Tennessee Volunteers also. That didn't last long. It seems as though he finally found his home in Oxford, and yet he decides to bolt and offer lame ass excuses about how he wanted to coach in the CFB playoffs. We'll get to CFB playoffs in a bit too, but releasing a bold lie statement and everything as he was jetting himself all the way to Baton Rouge. What was your opinion on Lane Kiffin before he was hired, and how do you feel about him now that he is the next head coach of LSU in your honest opinion?
Honestly, and I'm on the record as saying this, and this is I feel the same way as I did before. I mean, but I've kind of always felt this way about Lane Kiffin. I feel like Lane Kiffin is someone who I really admire and kind of see a lot of myself in. Like, there's a lot of quirkiness. There's a lot of, we didn't do this the orthodox way, kind of an outsider. But he specifically is an absolute offensive genius and always has been, and always was a unbelievable play caller. And just seeing the illustrious college football history that he's been a part of, whether that was Pete Carroll's USC, Saban's Alabama.
Yeah.
He's mentored and developed everyone from Matt Leinart to Jalen Hurts to Matt Corral to Jackson Dart. Just those four quarterbacks and how different those profiles are. Maximizing Trinidad Chambliss from Division II into a guy who just ate one of the best defenses LSU's had in the last decade, ate them alive. This is a guy who can really maximize everything he's got, get every last drop out of the talent that's at his disposal.
Yeah.
I always saw him as someone who was really smooth and good at the portal, smart and strong at recruiting. I saw him kind of evolve over time from maybe possibly more, and I hate to use this word because I'm definitely the definition of this word, immature. He had these immature kind of like weird Joey Freshwater moments where he was kind of as he said in the documentary, invested more in the stuff that was going on off the field. But now you've seen him more dialed in than ever. What he did with Ole Miss, what he turned Ole Miss into, what he did at Florida Atlantic to kind of rebuild his coaching pedigree. I remember admiring that moment when he's at Florida Atlantic and saying, this is going to be funny. I'm watching this game at like 2 p.m. on a Saturday on some, ESPN2 or whatever it is. And they're Lane Kiffin, and they're it's some no-name announcer kind of saying, and I'm like, this guy's going to have his moment again where he's going to like have another cycle. I didn't expect the Kiffin phenomenon, Stephen, where it was literally like, this dude is the the apple of the eye of LSU, Florida, and then of course Ole Miss wanting him to stay home at all costs because he just delivered their greatest season ever.
Yeah.
It was crazy. The numbers that were thrown around, the possibilities of where he could go, the way this all happened, the timeliness, all of it unforeseen, uncharted waters for college football history, man. Like we had a coach who is leading a team into championship contention, get fired before he can deliver or at least try and compete for that title. And then the rest of his staff, are you coming with me on the plane, or are you staying to coach with the team still?
Yeah.
Like, man, it was sticky. And here's the thing: I don't blame Lane Kiffin whatsoever. I understand that Lane Kiffin didn't give straight talk when was evidently going to LSU.
Right.
He was obviously going to LSU for about a week and a half before the deal went down.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I was told. About a week before this whole thing happened, it was Kiffin's going to LSU. Like,
Okay.
and I was reporting that to my audience. I was saying on every show, like, hey, this is Lane Kiffin. Like, he can change his mind very quickly, but I'm hearing that he's going to do this. He's going to go to LSU, and it's really because of what LSU has as far as resources, reach, the social media aspect that he loves, but then what LSU can deliver as far as a branding NIL enterprise that just is going to attract even more of the best players in the country, which then Kiffin can then maximize. And so you've seen Kiffin be very attracted by this move to LSU. I don't see him betray Ole Miss. I see him being conflicted. Ole Miss being in a rock and a hard place up against time. Man, we need an answer because then we've got to move on. And Kiffin also, needing that answer, needing to move on. LSU saying, we'll be patient. We'll even let you coach the playoff. And that was the reason that Kiffin went with LSU. We actually weren't breathing down the guy's neck at a time where it seemed the entire world was. But for me, just to tie up that question, they answer that question. For me, Kiffin, there was times at Ole Miss, there was times at other stops where you'd think, this is the offensive genius, the offensive wonderkind who just can't win the big games here. Like there were some times where the teams he coached would lose in these big moments, and sometimes it would be because of a coaching error or coaching some type of oversight error. You saw Kiffin evolve into like a cold-blooded, like big game winner, able to take down some big teams every season, and it was starting to really become something where it wasn't really like oh my God, Kiffin just beat Alabama. It was like, that's another scalp. Like, this guy was building something, and I maybe I'm biased. I always liked the way that Kiffin did things. I like it even more now, I guess, would be the difference, because he's coaching for LSU. But the reason I like it even more now is because I feel like this is Kiffin at his apex, what you're seeing right now. Yes, he hasn't coached it down, but you just have a feeling this is a guy who's about to go absolutely dominate the transfer portal.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was like the biggest reason why he left, because of the LSU's allure? His mentor Nick Saban coached and won the the national title there. I don't know the relationship, to be honest, between him and Saban. I know Saban ran him off when he was at Alabama because he was too busy flirting with other jobs and whatnot. I believe that was Florida Atlantic at that time, and tell him to get lost because we have a championship to play and so forth. But it turns out, Kiffin did consult with Saban, and Saban ended up telling him, take the damn job and so forth. So were those two kind of like, was it the allure and the NIL money, and then the state of Louisiana always consistently producing top talent? You could just recruit the entire LSU and you could just make a very good team out of it. Were those things like at the top of his list more so than the money that he was going to get with the school?
I think so, because Kiffin's already going to be making that money. He's already had that money. He's been smart with his money. He's not. I do believe him. I don't believe him when he says he doesn't know the contract numbers. I think maybe he doesn't know the
Yeah,
contract numbers
exactly.
when they're being negotiated behind the scenes, but he definitely knows what he's about to get paid. Duh. Like, let's be real here. But I
Yeah,
do believe
exactly.
him when he's
Nobody
I
might.
do believe him I do believe him, however, when he says that he cares more about the money that his players are about to get paid and where that money's coming from, because that's how you win in college football nowadays. And he understands that more than anybody. But he also understands how to like make it's not plastic still. Like it's not so mercenary and so just give me that money and we're done here. It's like, hey, come play in my system too, because you're going to dominate in my system and you're going to be known as this absolute slot dominator receiver. Whatever it is, you're going to be that dual threat running back coming out of the backfield. Like you're going to be unstoppable. They're going to be drafting you in the first round. But I think more than anything, when Kiffin was consulting with Jimmy Sexton was consulting with Verge Osbury, and athletic director for LSU, very newly appointed, um, was really under fire. Verge Osbury to prove that interim athletic director was no more, and
Hmm.
just like that, President Roos, who was also just barely put in, um, changed his tag from interim to permanent athletic director for a good reason. Verge Osbury made it very certain to Lane Kiffin, to Jimmy Sexton, that, hey, we actually are going to have a chance to have potential unlimited NIL funds because our Governor Jeff Landry, is going to get involved and he's going to actually be the number one fundraiser for LSU football, even more than you, sir. And you've seen that be true. Not just Jeff Landry standing at the podium saying, I'm not going to let Scott Woodward make the hire. I'm going to fire Scott Woodward. You know that he also put in the board of supervisors. You know that he had control of this behind the scenes and was kind of pulling some strings here. Jeff Landry isn't the master of puppets, though. Still, he's the organizer of donors who
Yeah.
made this happen, who put forth the money, because this is a $250+ million project, Stephen. You're
Yeah.
talking about paying off Brian Kelly. You're telling him you're paying him 56 million to say F off. I mean, it's just crazy. And then you're paying Kiffin 90 something million. I mean, obviously not all guaranteed,
Yeah.
but you got to have that money there just in case. You're talking about flipping the staff. You're talking about then, and luckily you retained a lot of your defensive staff. I think that was a big deal.
Yeah.
You're paying Blake Baker an extra million now per season,
Mhm.
and now you're going to have to be paying all these new Ole Miss staffers, including Charlie Weiss Jr. He just got a 3-year, $7.5 million deal. He will be right up there. I think he's the highest paid offensive assistant in the SEC with that contract.
Mhm.
So you've also got the highest paid assistant coach in the country in Blake Baker,
Yeah.
probably the highest paid assistant coach in college football history, if you were to look up the numbers. But you've really got this rock star staff. You've really got money to use here, and from what I've been told, Stephen, from sources that would actually know, sources that are actually dealing with the money people, these people have said LSU have possibly $40 million to work with in the transfer portal,
Damn.
and that is what. Okay, what Kelly said, it was 18. Yeah, Kelly said it was 18 million for last year's roster.
Mhm.
LSU, we're talking about something around, I think, 38, 39 million for this transfer portal push, and that's a number that could increase. So you're seeing LSU reaching maximum donations now with the excitement and enthusiasm behind Lane Kiffin. You're seeing LSU season tickets sell out. You're seeing all these things that should happen at LSU. Activating the fan base, getting the fan base going nuts, getting the fan base being invested once again. They were invested with Kelly. They gave Kelly a ton of their money last year.
Mm-hmm.
The fan base, the donors, they gave Kelly everything he needed to succeed. He should have won a championship with Jaden Daniels. All he had to do was fire Matt House midseason and start Whit Weeks as a freshman. That's all he had to do. And LSU could have beaten that Michigan team in 2023. But he was incapable of making that big decision. Now you got Lane Kiffin, and all you see is big decisions. You didn't think he could keep Blake Baker, Stephen. Keeping Blake Baker was a pipe dream. He made sure that happened. All down the line, you're seeing Eric Walford, the offensive line coach, is maybe one kind of like a big question mark. Even Kentucky fans didn't like that guy. And I think that says something for how bad Kentucky's offensive line was under him. Why did we hire him? Kind of a strange hire there. But other than that, as long as you keep Frank Wilson, you've kept Corey Raymond, the DBU Miyagi, Corey Raymond, the master there. You've kept Blake Baker. I mean, this is the huge upgrade with Charlie Weiss Jr. This is really starting to be a rock star staff. It's now setting up for how can you perform in the transfer portal. They did very well with recruiting as well. You have the best defensive line class in the country as far as freshmen with Lamar Brown, Deuce Geralds, Big Rich Anderson, Trenton Henderson. I mean, it's ridiculous how good that defensive line class is. You're going to have guys that are going to play significant time year one from that defensive line class, including Lamar Brown, the number one player in the country. But Big Rich Anderson, significant haul as well. I mean, every one of those guys could be significant players for LSU at a significant area of need. So I'm just trying to say that there's a lot of things coming together in a way that they never did for Brian Kelly, for Lane Kiffin, and in a very quick, short span of time. And the dude's putting in the work.
Yeah. That'll be good. So in your estimation, realistic expectation, how soon do you see LSU maybe not win the championship, the national championship, but how soon do you think they can get back into CFP playoffs? We know how loaded SEC is year in and year out.
I think the SEC has been weaker as far as like having a top dog team. Like each year, it's been weaker for like the last 3 or 4 years. After Georgia won their back-to-back titles, and then Saban retires after 2023, you haven't really had that team that's really given anyone a fear factor. I mean, LSU, as bad as we are, we almost beat Alabama 20-9 this season. They lost to Florida State. I mean, there's no real like top dog in the SEC. I see a lot of cannibalism in the SEC. A lot of Missouri was good for most of the season this year. There's just a lot of randomness and a lot of anybody can beat anybody any week. And so to really make sure that LSU can compete for everything, you got to go and you got to retool your quarterback room. And Lane Kiffin is the right hire in that sense to retool your quarterback room. Every quarterback is going to want to play for Lane Kiffin in this offense, especially when you saw what Garrett Nussmeier and this offense had on the defensive side of the ball as far as the help. Like, you were given every opportunity to win games, like punch in touchdowns from 5 yards out that you couldn't punch in. Just laughable, wasted opportunities. You give those to some of these guys that are headed into the portal. Some that are unofficially haven't just jumped in the portal just yet, such as like Trinidad Chambliss. That these guys come to LSU. It's going to be explosive, and I don't think LSU are going to have any problems getting a quarterback in the portal. I think LSU are going to have their maybe not the pick of the litter type of thing, but I think LSU are going to be able to zero in on their guy, and I think Kiffin will be able to get his guy, whoever that is. I think once you get that, quarterback in place, the whole picture becomes more clearer as far as what you can do about winning now for Lane Kiffin. But absolutely, in this era, man, it can be, the team 7-5 the year before.
Yeah.
Everything's blowing up. You don't have a head coach. You don't have an offensive coordinator. You don't have a president. You don't have an athletic director. Everyone's been fired. Everything's been brimstone, and it's like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. And instead, it turns very quickly on a dime
Yeah.
with some people who are very invested, not only emotionally but financially, into LSU being great and being back to the place they should be. I mean, LSU are no scrubs. LSU have had some bad seasons, sure,
Right.
but outside of Alabama, there's no better, more successful program in college football.
Yeah.
And we also have 1958 national championship. You can add to that as well.
Mhm.
Um, but the point is that this is a program that I think once activated in the correct way
Yeah.
financially, which you're seeing, and you're doing it recruiting wise, which you saw on early signing day, and then you're doing it through the portal, which is about to come up in January 2nd. But you know that Lane Kiffin has been proven to really be dynamic, be unstoppable in the portal, and that was at Ole Miss. That was at Ole Miss. Just think of what he can do at LSU. So I'm really thinking that with the staff he's put together, with the money he's got behind him, all this stuff, you get the right quarterback. You really go and you mirror what you did in the transfer portal last year on defense, because let's be honest, LSU have lost a lot of big time talent going to the NFL draft on
Yeah.
this defense. I mean, losing Mansour Delane, that's a guy who cuts off half the field. Losing AJ Halsey, who I think was probably your best defender this season. He was incredible at safety. You
Hmm.
do get Tamarcus Cooley back. It does look like you will get Whit Weeks back. Harold Perkins, it's such a toss up. I've heard he's preparing to head to the NFL draft, and this will be his
Yeah.
last season at LSU.
Yeah.
But he is willing to entertain any offers from Lane Kiffin. That is something I have heard from someone as reliable as they come when it comes to Harold Perkins information. And so there's a chance Perkins could come back for another season. He's got one more season eligibility, but he's already I think accepted the invite to the Shrine Bowl or something like that.
I think I saw that earlier. Yeah, this week. Yes.
It's something like that. So it's like, oh wow, and he was on senior night. He was among the seniors, and it was like, you're not a senior technically. Why are you? Oh man, okay, whoa, So it was like, ooh, okay, but you get if you get Wit Weeks, sorry,
Yeah.
if you get Wit Weeks back, that name, say that 10 times fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, is if you get Whit Weeks back, cornerstone of your defense,
Yeah.
you retool in the transfer portal, you retain guys like Dominic McKinley, Gabe Relaford, Davon Keys, a really good linebacker who I think he was second or third in tackles this season, in lieu of Whit Weeks being injured. He really stepped up. You've got all these strong pieces. PJ Woodland was at 9 pass breakups this season. I think he was third or fourth in the SEC in pass breakups. Was right up there, and he had a season where he kind of was thrown into the fire, because no one wanted to throw over to Mansour Delane's side. And then DJ Pickett, you just gave him a Nike endorsement. He's obviously returning. Freshman All SEC, 3 interceptions. Should have had a fourth against Florida that could have been a pick six that was called back because of some dubious flag. Just an incredible specimen. Multiple sacks as a corner, multiple TFLs as a corner, multiple interceptions, all as a freshman. What a season he's had. Top 5 coverage grades in the country as a freshman as well, DJ Pickett. And targeted quite frequently as well. So he's been tested. He's didn't allow a touchdown, didn't allow anything really against him. An incredible season. He could be that next real superstar at DBU. I think it not just could be. It's obvious that he is. And so you're losing a few pieces on defense, but you have some great establishment pieces to work with Now you've just got to go out in the portal and you got to get the best of the best to really fill this in here, fill in the gaps.
Mhm. We'll put the bow on the LSU talk. I know we had a question earlier from Paul Tarber. Lonn, was there an option to have rested Nuss the first 4 or 5 games, then bring him back fully healed from abdominal strain? What are your thoughts on his question?
Paul, I love you, brother. Thank you for watching this and commenting on this, man. Thank you for watching him, man.
And
He's
we
a
probably we could
regular.
have addressed this a lot earlier for Paul. My apologies as well. So go ahead.
It's all good. It's all good. Paul is a regular viewer of ours. Paul is a badass. Paul, you're the man. I guess there could have theoretically been that option. Obviously, they didn't take it. You could have rested Nuss, tried to do what you could to get his health back, his arm strength back, his passing ability back, because his chest was so ripped open he simply couldn't throw the football. And then his knee was messing with his footwork, not in a way of that the knee pain was like hindering him, but it was making him second guess himself. When you watch the film, I've been watching Nuss since he was in high school at Marcus High. I've met Nuss and his family many different times. Loved Nuss and his family to death. Great people. Met his Gano, his grandma. That was her nickname, Gano. Amazing people. I hate that this happened to Nuss, but you're playing a quarterback with those two injuries. They're not going to heal. They're going to get worse with the more you play him on. It was just a recipe for disaster. So yes, Paul, if they rest him, there is a chance that maybe Nuss comes back. Maybe we get through that gauntlet. Maybe one loss. Maybe we get through that gauntlet undefeated, like we did. But you go to that Ole Miss game, Nuss is probably in a lot better condition than he would have been. So it would have been a worthy experiment, at least, because Nussmeier, at his best, without these injuries, it just, man, it just sucks. What could have been this last season, Paul? Thank you for the question, brother. I really think you should have started with Michael Van Buren, and if Nuss, got all of that back, all of his bearings back, you put him in the game and you ride the Nuss bus to hopefully to Miami. But the problem is you put him in, you started him early, and the injuries never had a chance to heal, and they only just got worse. And mentally, everything went down the drain, and everyone kind of felt that, and it was a lot of tension, a lot of blow ups on the sidelines and stuff like that. Very, very frustrating for Garrett Nussmeier.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the college football playoff controversy and all of that. Notre Dame got, people talk about Notre Dame being left out, Alabama getting in despite losing 3 games. We know that ESPN has a lot of, money and time invested into, SEC, and their relationships has, been called into question. Where do you see, from your neutral eyes, was Notre Dame hosed, or do you feel like, that's just the world we live in, and that's how it is, unfortunately?
I think Notre Dame was hosed, but I think it's justice because Notre Dame was allowed in to so many of those 14 playoffs that they had no place being in, and they would get boat raced and they'd be out of there by Clemson, or Alabama would just destroy. They were in so many of those 14 playoffs where it was like, why are they in this 14 playoff? What the hell? And you knew they would get in. There were so many times they got those advantages, and so to see them crying, whining, moaning, bitching about this, when yes, they did make a title game recently, right? So yeah, didn't they make the title game? They lost the title game to Ohio State. Isn't that correct? Am I missing something saying that? But Marcus Freeman, all of them, can whine and cry about that, but like also refusing the bowl afterwards, it just reeks of weakness. It reeks of, you guys always want the system to be fixed for you, and the one time it isn't, Notre Dame, it's like the entitled 3-year-old, and I'm independent, that they are. And Notre Dame absolutely have no. I so glad to not see them part of the 12. They're a boring ass program. Even if
Mm-hmm.
they're exciting, even if they're exciting on the field and they win, they just, to me, a boring ass program that I've never really understood the allure there. Never really understood the why they mattered, because they've been so irrelevant for so long. They were always just that team that's on NBC, like the gold helmets, and then Brady Quinn brought them back. They had a moment where Brady Quinn brings it back. Then Brian Kelly, Manti Te'o, take him to a title game. They've had these moments of relevancy, and they, with Marcus Freeman, they're more relevant than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
But to cry and whine about this when you are the most favored outside of Alabama, the most beloved by the systems from since the BCS era all
Yeah.
through now to the playoff. You guys have always gotten the benefit of the doubts, especially in those 4-team playoff years where there was so many of those that Notre Dame was in, where they had no right to be there, boat raced and in and out. They never made the title game in any of those years. They never, like, they'd get killed in those semifinal games. And yeah, to the point where Brian Kelly took the LSU job before they found out if they could actually win one of those games or get in one of those. It's just I just laugh at Notre Dame fans crying about it.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to Miami earlier in that season, so that for me made me realize with Miami getting in, if they beaten Notre Dame, if Notre Dame beat Miami, at least with the ACC football scheduling, I thought Notre Dame had a more of a convincing reason to get in had they beaten Miami. That was just, but that's just my opinion. More so,
Absolutely.
yeah. But then their AD crying foul going on the Dan Patrick show and et cetera,
Oh,
pissing off
oh my God.
ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips and so forth.
Steven, did we see, was this real or was this AI? Did he really go on Dan Patrick and say that they signed an agreement to be like automatically in the future playoffs?
I believe
Is
it's
that,
legit. I believe it's legit. Yeah.
did he really, because we've had a baby and all this stuff is crazy. And if I am going to devote my brain to anything away from my family, it's just like LSU. But did I really see him say that we signed something to be automatically included in playoff setups in the future?
I
Like
believe he did. Yes.
I whoever agreed to that, whoever let that happen, if that's actually true, I really shudder at the future of college football. Like, I really do. Um, you really don't want college football becoming the NFL in every way, shape, or form. It's not going to be good for the sport.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's just the mess that where we are with college football. Um, the current state of football, where is it heading? I think it's a very interesting topic to kind of close it out our conversation. The NIL money certainly has kind of, I don't want to say ruined college football, but for a lot of people, they say they're not enjoying the college football like they used to. And I get the gripe, and I understand their point of view. Donald Trump earlier said NIL is destroying college sports or football in particular, blah blah blah, and so forth. Where are you on the current state of the college football and where it's heading? Some of the people have said that there's going to be maybe the Super League between the SEC and Big Ten. Those are the two big dogs that are currently uh, you know ruling college football more or less. And I do kind of agree that maybe we're heading into that. You being somebody who wrote about soccer, World Cup when it has to get your start. We might see like a UEFA Champions League type of format where you know Big Ten and SEC form their own league, and then you have the lower leagues, maybe the Big 12, Pac 12, whenever they go back into it, the ACC, you know, the lower league divisions, kind of like promoting, the lower leagues, and then the second division promoting and so forth. That might be, maybe in 10 years we might see something of that kind of system where NCAA, as irrelevant as they are, they no longer have anything to do with football. Where are you currently from, as like a neutral observant, the current state of football, the NIL, and where it's heading?
Man, I love everything you just said there, including the description of the Champions League setup, because that's exactly what I don't want for college football. That's what it works great in where it is, the sport that it's in, the Champions League.
Yeah,
But you've seen that invade the NBA with the NBA Cup. They have like a group stage in the NBA Cup, and then a knockout rounds in the middle of a season, a mid-season tournament, just to get more money, just for more games,
yeah,
as just an unnecessary NBA tournament. That is exactly the type of watered down BS that could happen to college football with these more games, more games. You saw it. Now a team could potentially play 17 games to win a championship this season, and the same
right.
with last year. That's astronomical to me.
You might even have a buy in like a with the same with the basketball team. Like a field of 68. You have like a buy-in or get-in tournaments. We might do
Yes,
that with the just to save Notre Dame and the others who couldn't get in. The 13, 14, 15, 16, ranked teams who couldn't get in. We might have like those two teams fight in just to get into the tournament or something like that too.
that's exactly, I think, my crux of the issue, man. Is like I the money is always going to be there. The money's always been there. The
Oh
players
yeah,
have
money
always
talks,
deserved the
unfortunately.
players have always deserved their piece. And
Mhm.
I love the revenue sharing aspect of it as well. But you're now finding ways that's being controlled. Deloitte has to approve every single NIL deal. It's not like every kid is out there getting fleeced. It takes a lot to get fleeced in today's day and age, but it still happens. But I'm saying the system, it has cleaned up from the NIL and the money perspective. The thing that is really worrying me is if you expand everything, more games, more field of 68, field of 32, field of whatever, and you keep going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you have these mega conferences, they break off. You're basically going to have invitational games. You're going to have more neutral site games that get away from what makes a school and an atmosphere intense on a Saturday night in Death Valley, a Saturday night in, you know, Gainesville, a Saturday night in wherever. And instead, it's going to be the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in Atlanta, or
Yeah,
the Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, or some place like that. Which are great stadiums, two stadiums I've been in and seen games in, but faceless in comparison to a night in Death Valley,
right.
LSU versus Auburn, something like that. I don't want them to mess with the schedule. And that's what I think is really at the crux of the issue, is the money that is involved in the sport of endless tinkering, like the endless tinkering around sports of changing formats, changing this, change it is so goddamn annoying to the fans. And yes, after a while, some of these changes, there's some rule changes and things that happen over time that make sense. That yes, we've all kind of, as a consensus, fans, players, coaches, football administrators, everybody is kind of on board with this rule change. Okay, like I understand that, but when we're talking about completely revamping the sport on the field, as you're doing it off the field, hey, we're going to have LSU versus Alabama in London, this type of
Or Abu
BS, like
Dhabi, something like that.
it defeats the purpose of the actual sport,
Yeah,
college football. There's no college. There's no college. Where's the college? The football game isn't on the college. It's in this spaceship looking thing in London. Like it's not it's not on the actual college. Here's the two college teams, but there's no actual college with the college kids going crazy. Like those are the atmospheres that make college football what it is.
hmm
And when you have moved so far away from tradition, and so far away from all of those things that you can't even recognize the sport. That's when we're going to all know. And I think it's going to be too late at that point. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to be, it might be too late now, but I think I don't think it is. I think we're still in a golden age where we're getting at least the product we've always loved and cherished and wanted, but we've got to protect it. And we've got to make sure that the financial part of it doesn't consume everything, because
Right.
everyone, as the economy gets worse and worse in this country, that's another thing. Donald Trump, I'm not trying to say anything political, but for any politician to worry about the state of a sport rather than the state of their country that is like completely failing in a lot of different ways, like
Yeah.
as great as America is, as great as much as America is the number one country God's ever created, we are in a dangerous, perilous spot. Why are you worrying about a sport when you should be worrying about the country? It's like, come on, man. So
Yeah.
let the sport worry about the sport. And he's right though. There are some things that are going to potentially endanger the sport, but it isn't just NIL is going to ruin this. That's just a lazy statement. I
Yeah.
think it's I think it's how you manage the money. I think it's how you manage to not, maybe put some caps, maybe put some things in order to not let this thing become a few behemoths and then a bunch of small little piranhas swimming around that kind of get a little nibble here and there, but just get devoured by, great white sharks in the most part. Like, you really want to see the type of sport that we've had over the last, probably 30 years, where it's been in its golden era, its golden age. 2006 Rose Bowl. We want to see games like that again.
Absolutely.
Though that's college football to me. That's college football to you. LSU versus Alabama on a Saturday night. That 9-6 game in 2011. Michigan versus Ohio State, and them planting the flag and all the brawl. Like, that's college football to us, baby, and that's what we need to protect.
No, I agree. I didn't go to college here in America. I went to grad school here in America. Like a George Washington in Washington D.C., where there's no football, and I always gravitated towards watching. As an Asian American who have no background in sports, but it was just an amazing atmosphere and the excitement. That really gravitated me towards college football, and I enjoy watching it. And I'm also an NFL fan, so I enjoy watching it as a NFL draft, freak. Watching some of
Yes,
the guys on Saturday who could play for on Sundays and so forth. So yeah, I totally agree. It's a tradition that you don't want to mess with. And Paul, Ken and I have been highly critical about some of these things about the World Cup that's coming here next year in the summertime, and I'm sure you've been following about FIFA glazing over Trump, and then the ticket pricing gouging and so forth, and it's just making it so difficult for average fans like you and I and those who are kind enough to watch this. The tickets is just literally would cost more than half of the entire month's salary for some of us, and it still wouldn't be enjoyable to watch, unfortunately, because we are catering towards the wrong crowd, the tech bros, or even the private equities, who, by the way,
yes,
private equities are entering into the college football world, unfortunately, with the Big Ten and the Utah getting into the separate agreements, which unfortunately we don't have a lot of time to, but we know where, unfortunately, given the notorious history of the private equities and how they literally don't grow or mostly destroy the business itself. Um, uh,
absolutely.
to destroy the college football models that we are known for. And then you talked about college football being played in London instead of a Baton Rouge on a Saturday night. We're forced to watch it on Friday evenings or Saturday mornings and so forth. Which I don't know if any fans would be. I'm sure they will still watch, or they'll still find a way to get to and watch it in person. But it's still not the same thing, unfortunately. So Your Paul Tarver again. More games begets more injuries. Longer seasons. Season starts earlier. Where does it end? Absolutely. It's the same with the NFL. We have 17 odd games, and they're talking about adding 18 to offset more. Your star players get hurt. They ended up leaving, quickly more for greener pastures, whether it's the NFL or other schools who are able to get the bag man to get deliver them more money and so forth. So this was a wonderful conversation, Lonn, and I'm really really thankful that we waited a week later to do this. Quickly, we didn't get to the Michigan situation with Sharon Moore, but I do believe that Bryce Underwood, who was a number one recruit locally and ended up signing with Michigan. I have a feeling maybe Lane Kiffin might pull a stunner, and maybe they are able to lure Bryce Underwood because of the unfortunate situation with Michigan. Sharon Moore, of course, was mostly on his own, self-inflicted wounds here. What do you think about Underwood coming to LSU, and how realistically do you think that would happen?
Man, Steven, I think it's absolutely realistic. It's there's people who said, "Oh, Underwood fits Kiffin's system perfectly." There's some who said, "Oh, he's the last quarterback that would fit in Kiffin's system." Wherever you land on that, I think it doesn't matter. Kiffin will be able to work with him, and if Kiffin thinks he would fit, Kiffin thinks he's a target, he will pursue him with everything he's got, and I think Underwood would
The
be
offense
receptive.
with talent, yeah, that's what great coaches do. You fit your talent, your system around talent, not the other way around, which a lot of coaches fail to do that. But I apologize there.
No, don't apologize. This is a conversation, my man. No, it's true. That's absolutely what you do, and I think Bryce Underwood would absolutely fit if Kiffin believes that that is the right direction. I think Kiffin is open to that. I think I haven't really heard any confirmation that there's going to be talk or anything like that.
Right.
I think it's going to be a wait and see moment, and the portal opens, and we'll see what happens there. But I definitely would not be shocked if Lane Kiffin pursued and was able to sign Bryce Underwood, because Bryce was so close to signing for LSU. He had a house picked out already for his family in Baton Rouge. It was already theirs. There was a lot of agreements already signed. There was a lot of things in place. Kelly hired Joe Sloan as his new offensive coordinator simply because they believed it was going to be Bryce Underwood starting this last season. His freshman year, they were going to start him as a freshman. So I I feel like Bryce Underwood, Lane Kiffin, maybe you'll see the best of Bryce Underwood. I think you saw the worst of Bryce Underwood and the best of him. You saw some mixed bag with him
Yeah.
against the Tide throughout the season, really just swimming against the kind of an unstoppable Tide. And that unstoppable Tide for Michigan was their own head coach, and kind of the distractions going on off the field that it seems like a lot of people knew about. And, maybe they turned their heads away because they saw a consensual, you know, relationship as, bad as it is to be cheating on your partners. Maybe people were like, well, they're two consenting adults, whatever. Obviously, things turned really, really ugly from just abusing power dynamics, and maybe some sexual creepiness going on, but still a consensual relationship between Sharon Moore and this woman. And then it becomes something very, very different in a few short days. But Bryce Underwood's already taken that University of Michigan thing off of his bio, and I I expect him to hit the portal. But it's hard for me to be like, yes, accept him back immediately, LSU. Like, he did sell, his soul away from LSU for 30 pieces of silver, but hell yeah, I would take him back. I would forgive him for that, because he did have genuine love for LSU. And how can you tell a kid to refuse a $12 million offer? So Bryce, come on home, baby.
Well, Lonn, listen, thank you so much. Congratulations on your birth of your second child, and for
Thank you,
doing
sir.
missed all the busy times that you are, being a father and everything. Listen, I would love to, if you're looking for help with your expansion of Odyssey.com, you know, uh, if in any way or shape or form in the future I'm able to contribute, I'll be glad to share my writing samples on some of the websites as well down the road. So
Let's do it.
all right,
Send them on over, brother.
absolutely, I will definitely do that. Listen, thank you for your time, and let's do this again in the near future. Hopefully next year when the college football season gets closer and where the LSU is and the state of college football and all of that. So enjoy your weekend and congratulations once again.
Steven, whenever you want me, you got me, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your weekend, my man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for checking in for this afternoon. Our website and your website. Thank you, and we look forward to doing this again on our live stream. Have a great time, everybody.
Go Tigers.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. Ken and I will be back again tomorrow, same time. Ken Fang from Awful Announcing is joining me tomorrow. The Bears and the Browns are playing at 1 o'clock, so hopefully we'll be able to do a quicker live stream than the normal 7 p.m. Eastern live stream that we normally do with each other. So for those of you who came straight from Lonn's website as well as his ex, thank you very much for checking in, and hopefully you had a great conversation. You enjoyed our conversation with myself and Lonn, and we look forward to doing this again in the near future. And enjoy your weekend, and please take care. And happy holidays, everybody.